Ndebele activist Thando Mahlangu has concluded his meeting with Boulders shopping centre management. The centre manager was subsequently suspended. For more on this, I'm joined by my colleague Pelane Phakgadi, who is outside the Boulders shopping centre. Pelane, the update so far as to the developments that have transpired today at Boulders.
Definitely. I mean, the first thing that had come to mind when we were waiting to hear how far the meeting is was to see the kind of activities that are outside here, literally to come and give support to Thando Mahlangu and what had really transpired last week. But just next to me, before I go, of course, into the kingdom, but he's here with me, just close by. The meeting is still ongoing, and just a little bit of a breather they have taken. Thando, just take us through inside. What is the mood, one could ask, because this is a funny phrase one could use. What is the mood of the meeting inside as far as that is concerned, and what is being discussed?
The mood inside is it's bad. Actually, the emotions are high because now we are arguing, we are fighting, we have differences, you know. So now what I can say for now, Guti, inside there, it's very tense. Yeah.
And what is making these tensions? Are there the matters which are on the table, and what are those matters?
So far, because now the meeting is still going on, I can't really divulge what is happening inside there. But what I can say is that we brought our demands on the table, and then we've stated things that we want. Things that we want them to do for all the South African languages, because what they've done, they've humiliated all South African languages, and the whole thing is being supported with all South African languages. As we speak currently, we don't have Ndebele on SABC TV, hence SABC is the only public broadcaster that we have in South Africa, but you don't have Ndebele in there. So now we are fighting for such a things like that, you know. So now we want them to encourage or to push the government to put all the languages of South Africa inside that television.
Yeah. And what are some of the things that you think they are in their reach, that you think it is only obvious that they can agree to do to succumb to some of your demands?
Everything that is there on paper, it's within their reach. Trust me. So if they don't want to reach them, or they don't want to reach it, they don't want, you know. But everything that is there, it's within their reach. Because now, you can see this mall, yakhiwe endaweni amaNdebele, lapha kuhlala amaNdebele, bekuhlala amaNdebele, nangothi uyaqala ngaphasi apha kunamadwala. Ongizwa ngikhuluma isikhethu nje, isinto asingivumeli ukuthi ngikhulume isingisi ngivunule, mara-ke ngoba nisemberegweni. That's why I'm speaking English currently. What I'm saying is that this is a place of amaNdebele, you know. So everything that is there, like Ndebele that are supporting this mall, it's functional because of Ndebele, you know. Ndebele catered kwelina Mazombe. So what I'm saying is that these guys, they have all their resources that they can make all our demands happen. You know, if they don't meet them, it's what they are deciding not to meet. It's their decision. Yes.
I think a final question for me, I think it would be very much important for me to ask. You've talked about a paper here that you have presented. I think it is only fair to understand what are the context of some of those papers, perhaps 2 or 3 pointers that you demand from them all.
All right. Kosakwethu njengoba ngifaka ngaphasi kwegandelelo nje, uyeza ubaba Masemula who will be speaking and outlining everything that is on paper, so that you can engage with him. He will be able to tell you everything, because everything is public, you know. Just like this mall, Imola Ndebele, it must be painted in Ndebele. Those are one of the things that we need, you know, because now sifuna nesitolo esokuthengisa into zeSouth Africa zamalimi wonke, sifuna imbatho nangathi uyangena ngaphakathi akuna stolo esine esiphethe African tradition, yabona. So now njengoba uzwa ngikuvezela ukuthi mina uyeza ubaba Masemula uzabakhuluma ngazo zonke into ethini esithi siyazifuna, yabona, ngoba azisiyifihlo zona, zisebaleni umru wonke, ngoba sifuna amalimi weSouth Africa wonke ayi-11, sifuna abe supported and sifuna madoda la sifuna into ezesintu ukuthi zenzeke, sifuna abantu bekhethu baziqhenye ngamalimi abo, sifuna abantu bekhethu bakhuluma amalimi abo, sifuna abantu bekhethu bafundisa abantwana babo amalimi abo, you know. That's what we want.
Definitely. Just talking there, Thando Mahlangu, about the significance and importance of having stalls that represent African cultures here in the mall, and that is part of their demands. Perhaps as just a parting question, but going into the kingdom now, I'm joined here by Sinechudu Mchweni, part of the King's delegation to come and observe what is happening here. I think it is important that I ask you this question. What are you hoping that some of the outcomes could be from this particular engagements which is intervened? The interventions are part of it are from the Human Rights Commission.
Esiqale khulu lapha ukuthi nanyana ngingakaliboni iphepha lengongoyilo namkha lenchijilo esizifunako la, singakuthabela ukuthi konke lokho okukhulunywe indodana la uThando uMahlangu ukuthi zibe khona. Singakuthabela ukuthi kuvunyelwe ukuthi abantu abagwala ngesikhethu, ngoba uyabona akunanto neyodwa ethwayako ukuthi indawo le indawo yamaNdebele. Indawo le iwela ngaphasi sibiza ngokuthi ranches, igama layo lakade, ene nekuyindawo enobukhosi, ubukhosi bakhona sinabo la, ene ekungenzeka ukuthi nabo egqineni buza kufuna ukuthi buthwayele ukuthi yini into ebungayithabela ukuyibona la, efana nokuthi imigwalo siyikhulumile, ivunulo yamaNdebele iveziwe, ene imigwalo yazo, ivunulo yazo zonke inchaba iveziwe, ene begodu nokuthi kube nechaphuluko lendawo le ebantwini bamaNdebele, kube nomakhiwo ozabe uthengisa njengoba sekuvelile zonke izinto eziphathelene nesitshaba samaNdebele, ene begodu igama layo imall le, ngoba lona le Boulders leli siyalifuna ukuthi nalo lichejwe, ngomana sifuna kube nethwayo ukuthi nanyana umuntu abuya ngaphetsheya nakafika la kumele azi ukuthi ufike endaweni enethwayo lamaNdebele, lapha kwakhe kwanyazwa khona ilimi lamaNdebele, kwanyazwa khona ivunulo yamaNdebele, ngombana lezi zinto ezimbili, ilimi nevunulo, zikhamba zonke. Ngikho sivane sithi kunesitshaba ene kunama-custodians, abantu abangamele amasiko, abantu abangamele namalimi. Labo bantu ngilabo esibabiza ukuthi zingwenyama zekhethu, njengobana sitsho sithi sivela ngaphasi kwesitshaba sakwanzunza amabhoko, sitsho umabhoko wesithathu okunguye ngehlangothini lethu lamaNdebele wakwamabhoko wakwanzunza, ongamele konke lokhu namkha ongamele isitshaba lapho uThando aphuma khona. Ngamagama lokhu okwenziwe nguThando or abakwenze kuThando asithi kuhle, kodwana kusivulile amehlo ukuthi kusesenabantu abangasiqali basithathe njengabantu nabasibona sikhamba lamadrobheni, mhlambe bathatha njengembandana namkha njengenilwane. Ukusukela namhlanje sithi abasithathe njengabantu, and ukusukela namhlanje sithi abathwaye ukuthi kunesitshaba esaziwa njengamaNdebele esiphilako la eSouth Africa nesisemthethweni ngokuya komthethosisekelo weSouth Africa.
Definitely, I think that is an important point that you're raising there, especially as far as the recognition of culture is concerned. That is Mr. Mchweni there speaking on behalf of the Kingdom of the Ndebele there. There's a lot of demands that he is raising, of perhaps in just a few seconds as I try to summarize, but mainly is the issue around the fact that they want the name of the mall to be changed to recognize the Ndebele tradition, and currently it is the Boulders Mall here in Midrand, and they also want stores that will represent African cultures within the mall that people could be able to come through and buy some of their essentials that would be traditional. But I think above all they also want recognition as one of the minority, one could say, cultures in the country. They also want adverse recognition so that the Ndebele tradition could further be propelled into society. Tami?
A very interesting conversation that you had there with Mr. Thando Mahlangu, as well as the gentleman talking about the history of that Midrand area, that is Rankiesfontein, traditionally an area that was Ndebele owned. A very multifaceted situation that we're looking at here, not only about land ownership, first of all, and land removals, but also about representation and feeling a sense of ownership for the land that you live in and the land that you inhabit. But I realize as well, Pelane, that this is not just about AmaNdebele, that they are really wanting to make sure that all African languages, all African cultures are represented as well as respected.
Well, definitely, and those are some of the challenges I would assume that they want dealt with. And I think it is important as well to raise that among some of the concerns that are raising here, as you rightfully put it, is that the tribal land of the Ndebele nation, as he says, is part of this area here in Midrand, tribally speaking, and then they believe that they should also be recognized in some of the naming of such institutions, including this one of the Boulders Mall, where scores of people, particularly in the Midrand area, come through to do their shopping. And they also think that there is a way that Boulders could assist them in ensuring that the language is preserved on national and provincial public service broadcasters, and that is also, of course, all lined to the SABC as one of their mandates, that they should be coming through to have ways to preserve their culture and ways to preserve their language, and they should be included in some of the programming that is seen on national and provincial television and as well as radios. And that in itself is some of the demands that are put on the table there for the Boulders Mall in itself, to put on programs that will assist in better the realization of such challenges that are putting through. And we've heard earlier on from Thando himself saying that while the meeting was going on inside, it so seemed that the mood, as one could say, it is not really cohesive, and that's perhaps one of the reasons that they had to take a break and would really go ahead now to understand what could be the possible outcomes of that meeting once it has concluded. Will there be any kind of an agreement on issues that Thando has brought through now, and saying that, of course, the chief here as well, saying that it is important that some of the challenges, although it was painful to realize that they came through on social media in a bad manner, while one was ill-treated, but it was an eye-opener for the human rights realization in the country, and those in itself now have to come through to be addressed, and those are some of the challenges that they've put through here, and they want the Boulders Mall to be part of the agents of change in that regard.
I did hear you, Pelane, put a question to Mr. Mahlangu about the demands that are being made. And one of the questions that you asked him is, of those demands, how many are actually within the scope of the Boulders Mall itself? You know, it is a privately owned mall, to my understanding, but it also points to perhaps a situation that is multifaceted and needs various stakeholders, including the South African Broadcasting Corporation, including government, that this Boulders Mall incident may just be a catalyst for perhaps a movement of greater inclusivity and representation that will involve other stakeholders like government, like the South African Broadcasting Corporation, and perhaps even a private government partnership. Just your thoughts and your analysis on that.
I think what the importance of that particular question, Tammy, was to try and understand what is it that they are putting through to the mall in itself, and what is it in their reach. And I think from my side, what could be the better way of ensuring that there is a mutual understanding in this meeting is the intervention of the Human Rights Commission. And we do know that from the office of Buang Jones, who is the Commission's leader here in Gauteng, was that they are intervening, and I would only come to think that some of the interventions would come through to bring about some mutual activities and mutual outcomes that was not only both beneficial to Mahlangu as one of the complainants, and as well as to the mall, so that it really does not infringe on anybody's rights in the move going forward. And I think it is also important that the intervention in itself of the Human Rights Commission, it being there, will then be able to alleviate this kind of frictions that we are told are currently inside the meeting, and that in itself would now hopefully bring about an outcome that is appealing to both parties. But I think it is also important to talk about the realization of knowing that there is a diverse nation out there, and of course not only about human rights knowledge, but as well as the knowledge of different cultures that present themselves at places such as malls, because those where both you and I would go to buy bread and butter, and that in itself will give you an indication that as different people going there, we might be having different backgrounds and would then be expected to carry ourselves differently. And those realization is what I believe that Mahlangu is fighting for, including the stalls that need to be installed, he says, in the Boulders Mall, like any other mall, where the tradition and culture of certain tribes, including that of Ndebele that he's talking much about, is being recognized and, of course, assisted in the way going forward.
Thank you very much, Pelane. That's our Pelane Phakgadi, who is at the Boulders shopping center.